She was just rented, not meant to be loved. In the dark side of the galaxy, far from any human law, there was a place called Karnak Market. It was not a normal market. It was full of noise, lights, and secrets. Here, strange things were bought and sold: weapons, drugs, and sometimes even living beings. One of those beings was Rell. She was not human. Her skin had a soft silver glow. Her eyes were big and green, but there was always sadness in them. Carell was one of the many alien women who were rented by rich travelers for fun. No one asked them what they wanted. No one cared. They were not wives. They were not partners. They were things. Carell sat quietly in a glass chamber, wearing a simple dress. She never looked up when people passed by, but inside her mind, she was not quiet. Inside, she was screaming. She was dreaming of another life, a life that didn't belong to her, but felt too real. That day, a new man entered the market. He looked different. Strong, serious, and quiet. His name was Jack Rayner. Jack was a retired war commander. He had fought in the last human-alien war and had seen many horrible things. Now, he was alone. His wife had died during the war. He had no family left. He didn't come to the market to rent a woman. He came for information. Someone had told him that answers were hiding in this place. As he walked through the market, many sellers called out to him. Strong alien muscle for protection. Beautiful blue dancer for a good night. Smart hybrid for company, only 2,000 credits. Jack ignored them all until he saw her. Rell. He stopped. Their eyes met. In that moment, something strange happened. Carella's eyes widened. She looked at him like she had seen him before. But that was impossible. Jack had never met her. Still, his heart started beating faster. Her face, her eyes. They reminded him of someone he had lost. The seller smiled. Ah, sir, you have good taste. She's quiet, obedient, never causes trouble. You want one night or whole week? Jack didn't answer. He stepped closer to the glass. Carell didn't look away. Does she talk? He asked. Only when told to. She's perfect. Just like the lab promised. Lab? That word caught Jack's attention. He turned to the seller. How much to buy her forever? The seller laughed. No one buys forever, only rent. Jack pulled out his ID chip and placed it on the table. I said how much? The seller scanned the chip. His smile faded. This man had high-level access. Military. The seller gulped. 50,000 credits, full ownership contract. Done, Jack said. Carell was taken out of the glass room. For the first time, she looked confused. Why did you buy me? She asked. In a soft voice, Jack looked at her and said, Because you looked at me like you knew me. They walked through the market together. Many people stared. No one ever bought the alien girls. Renting was normal. But buying? That was strange. Carell stayed close to Jack. She didn't know if she should feel afraid or safe, but someone else was watching them. In a dark corner of the market, a tall alien with red eyes saw them leave. He whispered into a small device. Subject 7 has been taken. Alert the handlers. Then he disappeared into the crowd. Back on Jack's small ship, Carell sat quietly. She looked at the stars through the window. You are free now, Jack said. She shook her head. No one who's made in a lab is free. Jack turned to her. What do you mean? Carell looked at him. I don't remember much, but I see things in my dreams. Human things, names, places. A woman who looks like me. A man who looks like you. Jack felt cold. Who told you about me? He asked. No one, she whispered. I remember you. Far in space, a secret lab received the message. Subject 7 has activated memory fragments. The head scientist looked at the screen. A picture of Carell was shown. She's merging faster than we expected. This is dangerous. Another voice replied, then we have to get her back before she remembers everything. The ship floated silently in deep space, far away from the noise of the black market planet. Inside the dimly lit room, Carell sat cross-legged on the small bed, her silver skin glowing faintly under the soft blue light. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't looking at the room. She was lost in a vision of memory that wasn't hers, or at least wasn't supposed to be. She saw a garden, green trees, a blue sky, a little white house with red flowers near the windows. She could smell the air, fresh, warm, and laughter. A woman's voice laughing with joy. She turned her head in the dream and saw a man walking toward her. He was smiling. He looked exactly like Jack. Her eyes opened wide. She wasn't dreaming anymore. Jack stood at the control panel, checking navigation data. They were headed toward an abandoned space station called Echo Point 3, a hidden place where he once received classified military briefings. Now it was forgotten by most. But he remembered. He believed it might hold answers. Carell entered the room slowly, still barefoot. Jack turned to her. You okay? He asked. I saw you, she said. Her voice was calm, but full of confusion. Not now. From before, Jack frowned. What do you mean? I dreamed of Earth, of a garden, a house, your face. But not like now. You were younger, happier. I was there too, but I was someone else. Jack looked away. That house, that dream. It wasn't just a dream, it was real. That house belonged to him and his wife, Elena. The red flowers were her favorite. The memories Carell had just described weren't alien dreams. They were human memories. His wife's memories. Your name, Carell said slowly, is Jack. Your wife's name was Elena. She died in the war. I remember her crying when she knew she was going to die. Jack's heart stopped. How do you know that? He whispered. Carell touched her temple. I don't know. It just came to me. Jack checked the system logs. A strange message had appeared in the background code of his ship's AI. It was short and heavily encrypted. Only someone with military clearance could access it. Jack unlocked it. Echo Soul project still active. Subject 7 connected. Identity pattern Elena Rayner. Jack read it twice. Subject -7. That was single quotes RELL. Elena Rayner. His wife. It couldn't be true. Elena had died on a battlefield during the alien invasion. Her body was burned. There was nothing left to bury, but now pieces of her were somehow living inside this alien woman. Carell sat down, holding her head. Her memories were crashing like waves. She remembered holding a human child, her child. She remembered music, sunlight, the smell of bread. These memories felt warm, but then came darkness. Cold metal, wires, needles, scientists talking. We must save the mind. The soul must survive. Another voice. Transfer the cognitive imprint before it fades. She gasped. They put her inside me. Jack nodded slowly. There was a secret program during the war. They called it Project Echo Soul. It was meant to save the minds of brilliant humans by transferring their memories into other bodies. Alien bodies. I didn't know Elena was part of it. Carell looked at him. Am I her? Jack shook his head gently. You're not her. You're someone new, someone real. But maybe a part of her lives in you. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Carell said something soft. That means I was never born. I was made. As they neared Echo Point 3, the ship began to flicker. Lights dimmed for a moment. The AI made a strange noise. Jack tried to regain control, but it was too late. A warning flashed. Incoming transmission. Unknown source, then a voice filled the ship. Subject 7. Return immediately. You have been activated too early. Unauthorized human contact detected. Return, or both you and the human will be erased. Carell's face turned pale. They're watching me. Jack slammed his fist on the console. They think they still own you, but they don't. Carell looked at him, her voice trembling. If they come, they'll take me back. They'll erase me. I'll forget everything. Jack stepped closer. I won't let that happen. She looked into his eyes. But what if I want to remember her? Jack took a deep breath. Then we'll find the full truth. Together. Outside. The ship, a shadow, moved behind a distant asteroid. A stealth drone, shaped like a black arrowhead, followed quietly, sending signals back to a hidden base dot in a dark room far away. The red-eyed alien from the market stood before a screen. Subject 7 has made contact with the human host. Memory fusion advancing. Emotional identity forming. Another figure in a hood nodded. She is becoming dangerous. If she becomes both alien and human, she could break the system. The red-eyed alien grinned. Then we better move fast. Before she becomes more than both. The stars outside the window looked calm, peaceful, even beautiful. But inside Jack's ship nothing was calm anymore. Carell stood still in the quiet hallway, staring at her reflection in the mirror. She touched her face slowly, as if trying to understand who or what she really was. She was not human. She was not alien. She was something in between. And she was beginning to remember things she never lived. Her head ached with flashes broken. Memories of places she'd never been, people she never met. A child laughing in the snow. The smell of coffee on a cold morning. A necklace. A voice. Whispering, I love you, Jack. Her fingers reached for her neck. No necklace was there. But the feeling was so real. Jack entered quietly, holding a small data chip. His face was serious. We're here. Carell turned to him. Where? An old military outpost, he said. Echo Point 3. It was shut down after the war. But this chip, it has a code. I think it'll unlock what they hid from both of us. Carell nodded. She didn't trust the world anymore, but she was starting to trust him. They docked the ship on a dead platform. The outpost was silent and cold. Metal walls covered in dust, old lights flickering weakly, and corridors filled with ghostly echoes. Everything smelled like the past. Jack walked ahead with his blaster ready. Carell followed, her eyes scanning every shadow. Despite the silence, she felt something moving, not in the halls, but in her mind. Down in the lower levels, they found a locked vault. Jack inserted the chip, and the door hissed open. Inside was a small room filled with broken lab equipment. In the center, a frozen pod. A metal plate read, Subject Echo 07. Do not revive. Carell walked closer, her hand trembling. As she touched the glass, a wave of memories hit her like a storm. Suddenly, she was there lying in the pod, wires attached to her skin, voices shouting over her. A man in a lab coat saying, Start the transfer now. Her mind is fading. Another voice, cold and calm. The host body is ready. Inject the echo core. Carell gasped and stepped back. This is where they made me. Jack looked at an old screen. He tapped a few keys and an old video began to play. It was grainy, but the sound was clear. A woman lay in a hospital bed. Weak, pale, but beautiful. Jack's eyes widened. Elena, he whispered. The woman on the screen was his wife. Her voice was soft but full of pain. To whoever finds this, if I don't survive, please know this wasn't my choice. They said they could save my mind. They said I could live again, but not in my body, not even as a human. Tears filled Jack's eyes. I did this because I didn't want to leave. You, Jack, the woman said. But if what they create isn't really me, don't love her just because of me. Let her be free. The video ended. Silence returned. Carell stepped back, confused and afraid. I'm not her. I feel her, but I'm not her. Jack slowly walked toward her. I know. And I don't want you to be anyone else. Carell looked up at him. Then what am I? Jack replied, You are what they never expected. A mind reborn, but with a new soul. Just then, the room shook. Lights flickered violently. Jack pulled out his blaster. They found us. A loud voice echoed through the speakers. Step away from the subject. Return the property. This is your only warning. Carell looked around. They still think I'm just a lab product. No, Jack said. They're scared. They're scared because you're becoming more than they planned. From the hallway, black armored soldiers entered, silent, fast, and deadly. Carell closed her eyes. I don't want to go back. Jack raised his blaster. Then we fight. What happened next was a blur of movement and noise. Jack fired, hitting 2 soldiers. Carell ducked behind cover, her hands shaking. Then something strange happened. The broken console beside her lit up. Her fingers moved on their own, typing codes she didn't understand. Suddenly, the doors locked. The lights turned red. The soldiers were trapped between closing walls. Carell's eyes glowed faintly. I just did that. Jack smiled. Looks like you remember more than memories. You have skills. Carell's voice was quiet. Maybe they didn't just give me her memories. Maybe they gave me her brain. The outpost was falling apart. Jack grabbed Carell's hand. Time to go. They ran through the collapsing halls, fire behind them, alarm screaming. As they reached the ship and took off, the station exploded behind them. Later, in silence, Carell sat watching the stars again. Jack stood beside her. Everything they buried in me, she said. I'm starting to uncover it. Piece by piece. Jack nodded. We'll uncover it together. She turned to him. Do you think I can choose who I want to be? He gave a small smile. You already are. Far away, on a dark command ship, the red-eyed alien watched the explosion on a screen. She's no longer just a subject. He said, She's waking up. Another figure in the shadows whispered, Then we'll have to shut her down before she remembers everything. The cold stars outside the ship's window flickered like distant memories, but inside, the air was thick with tension. Jack and Carell sat silently, their faces shadowed by the dim control lights. The explosion of the Echo Point 3 outpost behind them was a warning, not a victory. They knew it would bring more enemies, and soon. Carell's body still trembled from the fight inside the collapsing station. She had surprised herself by using the security system against the soldiers, but she didn't understand how or why. Every moment, new powers seemed to awaken inside her, powers that frightened her as much as they fascinated Jack. Jack looked at her carefully. They won't stop looking for you, he said quietly. That lab. The people who made you, they want you back, or they want you gone. Carell swallowed hard. Why? What do they want from me? Jack's eyes darkened. Because you're a weapon and a mystery. You carry the memories of my wife and the secrets of a program they buried deep. If they get you back, they could make more like you. Soldiers, spies, weapons that don't feel pain or fear. She shook her head. I don't want to be a weapon. You won't be, Jack promised. Not while I'm here. Their ship slipped through space quietly, but the silence was broken when the ship's alarm beeped sharply. Jack moved fast. Checking the sensors. Tracking signal, he said grimly. They found us. Carell's eyes grew wide. Already? Jack nodded. They're fast. We need to hide. Using a hidden asteroid belt nearby, Jack maneuvered the ship between massive rocky walls. The ship shook as small enemy drones appeared on the sensors, hunting like wolves. Carell watched the screens. "Can I help?" Jack hesitated but nodded. "Try to use your abilities. Anything." She reached out, focusing. Slowly, the ship's systems responded to her thoughts. She unlocked hidden defenses, sending an energy pulse that knocked several drones out of the sky. Jack smiled in surprise. Not bad, but the fight was far from over. Larger ships appeared, cutting off their escape routes. The enemy was closing in. As the ship dodged between asteroids, Jack turned to Carell. "We can't keep running forever. We need allies." Carell looked at him, hope and fear mixed in her eyes. "Where do we find allies?" Jack thought. For a moment. "There's a mining colony nearby. It's off the grid, no military, no laws. Just people who want to live quiet lives. Maybe they'll help us." Carell nodded. "Let's try." The journey to the mining colony was tense but uneventful. When they arrived, the place was a dusty, harsh world. Small buildings scattered across rocky ground. Dust storms blowing in the weak sun. Jack and Carell walked through the colony's market, drawing curious looks. Carell felt the eyes on her, some filled with fear, others with curiosity. They found a small tavern where Jack hoped to find old friends. The room was smoky and loud. Men and women spoke in low voices, eyes watching every move. Jack spotted a tall man with a scar across his cheek. "Rex," Jack said quietly. Rex smiled grimly. "Jack, been a long time." Jack nodded. "I need help. We're being hunted." Rex's smile faded. "By who?" "Federation soldiers, and worse." Carell looked around, feeling small and out of place. Rex leaned closer. "You brought her, huh?" "The alien with a human soul?" Jack nodded. "She's more than that. She's the key to a secret no one wants uncovered." Rex's eyes darkened. "Then you're in deep trouble." That night, Jack and Carell stayed in a small safe house. Carell sat by the window, looking at the twin moons in the sky. "I'm scared," she said softly. Jack came and sat beside her. "I know, but you're stronger than you think." She looked at him. "I want to be more than the past they gave me." "I want to be me," Jack smiled. "You already are." Suddenly, a loud explosion shook the house. The door crashed open and armed soldiers poured inside. Jack grabbed his blaster, firing as Carell ducked behind a table. She felt panic rise, but then she remembered the power inside her. Her hands glowed softly, and she sent a wave of energy that threw soldiers back against the walls. Jack covered her. "Keep fighting. We have to get out." They ran through twisting corridors as the house shook from more blasts. Carell's powers were growing, but so was the fear that she was losing control. At the end of the hall, a heavy door led to a secret tunnel. Jack kicked it open, and they dove inside just as more soldiers broke through the door. The tunnel was dark and narrow, but Jack's knowledge helped them navigate. Outside, the desert wind howled. They ran through the rocks until they found a hidden cave. Breathing hard, Carell leaned against the wall. "Why do they want me so badly?" she asked. Jack looked at her. "Because you're not just a weapon. You're a symbol of hope, of change. They fear what you could become." Carell closed her eyes. "Then I want to become that." Jack smiled and took her hand. "Together, we will." Far away in a cold command room, the red-eyed alien stared at a screen showing the destroyed safe house. "She's getting stronger," he said, voice low and angry. Another voice answered, "Send the hunters. No mistakes this time." The red-eyed alien nodded. "This ends soon." The dusty winds of the mining colony had settled, but the danger had not. Jack and Carell sat in a small, dim room, far from the chaos of their last escape. The walls were thin, the air stale, but for a moment they had peace. Carell looked out a cracked window at the twin moons hanging low in the sky. Her thoughts were heavy. "I don't understand," she said quietly. "Why me? Why did they put my mind in an alien body? And why does it feel like I'm being hunted for something I never did?" Jack stared at the floor. "Because you know too much. Because you carry pieces of a secret no one wants revealed." Carell turned to him, curious and afraid. "What secret?" Jack took a deep breath. "During the war, the Federation started a program called Project Echo Soul. They took dying or dead soldiers, scientists, and leaders and copied their memories into alien bodies. You were one of their experiments, but they never told the whole truth. Some memories were hidden, some were erased." Carell's eyes widened. "So I'm a copy?" "No," Jack said firmly. "You're more than a copy. You're a new life born from their mistakes." Jack pulled out a small, old data pad. It flickered with encrypted files. "These are the records I stole before the war ended. They explain everything about the project, but also why it was shut down." Carell leaned in. "What happened?" Jack's voice was low and serious. "The program worked too well. Some of the subjects became unstable. They remembered too much. They started acting on their own. The Federation couldn't control them, so they shut it down. But you were hidden away, left to fade." Carell's hands trembled. "I'm more dangerous than I thought." "No, Jack." Sighed, holding her hands gently. "You're special. Because you're not just memories, you're a person. You can choose who you want to be." The room's small window suddenly flickered with light. Jack's communicator beeped urgently. He checked the message. "Federation ships detected near the colony," Jack said, his face hardening. "They're coming for you." Carell stood. "Quickly, we need to leave," Jack nodded. "I have a plan. But it's risky." That night, under the twin moons, Jack led Carell to an old shuttle hidden behind the mining outpost. The craft was small, worn, but fast. Jack's friends, old soldiers turned mercenaries, waited nearby. "Are you ready?" Jack asked. Carell nodded. "I have to be." They took off just as the first Federation patrol ships appeared above the colony. The chase began. In space, the stars streaked past as the shuttle dodged lasers and missiles. Carell held on tightly, fear and excitement mixed inside her. Jack piloted with steady hands, calling out commands. "We're going to a safe place. A hidden base where we can learn more about you and the project." Carell looked at Jack. "Why do you care so much?" Jack smiled softly. "Because you remind me of her, and because I don't want to lose you." Carell's heart skipped. She had never heard words like that before. They made her feel human. When they landed, the hidden base was dark and cold. Walls lined with screens and databanks hummed softly. Jack led Carell to a small room filled with old computers. "We'll find answers here," he said. Carell sat, feeling both hope and fear. She didn't want to be just a weapon or a memory. She wanted to be free. As Jack worked on the computers, a sudden alarm blared. Red lights flashed. "Security breach," a voice announced. Jack cursed. "They found us again." Carell's eyes shone. "I'm ready. Let them come." The base doors exploded open. Armed soldiers poured in, led by a cold-faced commander. "Subject 7, surrender now." The commander shouted. Jack stepped forward. "You won't take her." Carell stood beside Jack, her hands glowing with strange energy. The battle began. Carell fought with growing power. She moved like lightning, throwing enemies back with bursts of energy. Jack covered her, taking down attackers with his blaster. The room filled with noise, shouting, gunfire, crashing metal. But Carell's mind was focused. She could feel The memories in her head guiding her. The strength of Elena's love, the pain of loss, the desire to live. She was not just a weapon. She was a fighter, a survivor. After the fight, the base was quiet again. Jack checked the damage. "We can't stay here," he said. "They'll come back, stronger." Carell looked at him. "Then what do we do?" Jack took her hand. "We fight, but on our own terms." Carell smiled for the first time in a long while. Together. Far away, the red-eyed alien watched the battle on a screen. His face twisted with anger. "She's becoming a threat," he growled. "The Federation can't control her anymore." A shadowy figure stepped forward. "Then we destroy the project." "We destroy everything." The red-eyed alien nodded. "No mistakes this time." The air inside the stolen cargo ship was heavy and still. Carell lay unconscious on a cold steel floor, her silver skin bruised, her hands bound with glowing cuffs. That blocked her energy. Federation soldiers stood guard silently, their weapons aimed at her even though she wasn't moving. They treated her like a bomb that could explode any second, and they were right to be afraid. She had been captured. It happened fast. Too fast. After the last attack at the hidden base, they were moving again, trying to stay ahead. Jack and Carell had been flying through a nebula, hoping to reach allies. But the Federation had laid a trap, and Jack hadn't seen it coming. Carell had given herself up to save him. She had whispered, "If they take me, they'll leave you. Live. Come back for me." Now she was gone. Far away, Jack stood alone. In a dark room aboard an old freighter. His hands were clenched, his jaw tight. He stared at the screen showing the last moments of the attack, Carell being dragged into a prison ship. He had failed her, but he wasn't going to let it end that way. "She saved me," he said out loud. "Now I'll save her." Inside, a deep facility on a secure Federation base, Carell was kept in a special chamber. Scientists moved around her. Machines scanned her mind. They didn't speak to her. They treated her like a lab sample. "She's evolving faster than expected," one said. "The human memories are becoming her own. We must extract the core data," another replied. "Before her mind fully takes control." Carell opened her eyes slowly. Her voice was weak but steady. "You can't break me," she said. Head scientist turned. "We don't need to break you. We just need to understand what you are." Carell stared at him. "I'm not your project anymore. I'm a person." The scientist ignored her words. "Let's begin the mind mapping sequence." As the machine powered up, Carell closed her eyes. Not out of fear, but focus. Somewhere inside her, she could still feel Jack. Not through science. Through something deeper, she just had to hold on. Meanwhile, Jack had gathered a small crew, rebels, hackers, and 2 former soldiers who owed him their lives. They flew toward the Federation base, hidden under stealth cover. Inside the ship, Jack stood with a clear plan and fire in his eyes. "They think she's a tool," he said. "They don't see her soul. They don't see that she's more human than half of them." Rex, his oldest friend, loaded his blaster. "What's the plan?" "We don't fight their war," Jack said. "We start our own." The Federation base was massive, built into the side of an asteroid, floating in deep space. Guards patrolled the corridors, drones scanned every shadow. No one expected an attack here. That was their mistake. Jack and his crew infiltrated the outer shell using a forgotten cargo tunnel. Inside, they moved fast and silent. Carell, strapped to the scanning table, suddenly felt something. A flicker in the air. A memory that wasn't from her past, but from the present. Jack is here. Her heart beat faster. Her body began to warm. The cuffs around her wrists glowed, and then cracked. The scientist stepped back in panic. "She's breaking through the locks," one shouted. Carell stood slowly. her eyes glowing, her voice clear. I'm not your subject. I'm not your weapon. I'm me. She raised her hands, and the machine around her shattered into sparks. Jack and his team reached the lab doors, blasting through soldiers. Smoke filled the hallway as alarms rang. The doors opened. Jack saw her, standing in the center of broken machines, glowing like fire. Carell. He shouted. Her eyes met his, and for a second, everything else disappeared. She ran to him. He caught her in his arms. I told you I'd come back, he whispered. Carell smiled. And I told you I'd wait. They escaped through chaos. As the base burned, Federation soldiers fell behind them. Carell used her powers to break paths, to protect the others, to shield Jack. She was no longer running from what she was. She was becoming what they feared and what she was meant to be. Outside, they launched from the base just before it exploded in a storm of light. In the ship, Jack held her close. You saved all of us. Carell leaned into him. No, we saved each other. Back on the Federation command ship, the red-eyed alien watched the footage with cold fury. Around him, high-ranking officers panicked. She's too powerful. Now, one said, we've created a living weapon. No, the red-eyed alien replied. We created something worse. What? The alien's eyes narrowed, a free mind with a purpose. In the quiet of space, Carell and Jack looked out into the stars. What happens now? She asked. Jack looked at her with a small smile. Now? We stop hiding. Now we fight back. Carell nodded. Then let's begin. The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky, silent witnesses to everything that had happened. In the center of it all flew a small ship, old, dented, and battle-scarred. But inside, something new was being born. Hope. Carell sat by the window, staring out at the stars. Her reflection looked different now, not just because of her glowing eyes or silver skin, but because of something deeper. She was no longer someone who had been created in a lab or sold in a market. She was someone who had chosen her path, someone who had fought to be free. Jack entered the room quietly. He had bruises on his arms, cuts on his face, but his eyes still held that same steady fire, the fire that first made her believe she was more than just a body. He sat beside her. They're scared, he said. The Federation is losing control. The base we destroyed had key data gone. Some colonies are starting to question everything. Carell nodded slowly. Because of me? No, Jack said gently. Because of what you represent. A soft alarm beeped. Jack stood and walked to the control panel. A message blinked on the screen. Distress signal received. Outer zone settlement under attack. Carell walked to his side. Another attack? Jack nodded. Federation strike team. They're wiping out settlements that may be hiding people like you. They're afraid others might wake up. Carell's voice was calm. Then let's go. We can't hide anymore. Jack looked at her. If we go, there's no going back. They'll brand us as enemies. Carell placed her hand over his. Then we'll become the kind of enemies they can't ignore. They arrived at the settlement, a small planet with blue skies and wide valleys. Fires burned in the distance, and smoke rose into the air. People ran through the streets, chased by armored soldiers. Drones hovered above, scanning for targets. Jack landed the ship just outside the colony. As the hatch opened, Carell stepped out first. Her eyes glowed softly. She wasn't afraid anymore. The soldiers turned toward her, their weapons raised. Then she raised her hands, and the world lit up. A wave of energy burst from her body. Like a shock wave of light, the drones fell from the sky. The soldiers stumbled, blinded by a sudden burst of memory, not their own, but hers. They felt her pain, her captivity, her awakening. It broke something inside them. They dropped their weapons. People came out of hiding, watching in awe. "She's one of them," someone whispered, an echo. "No," said another. "She's something new." In the days that followed, word spread, not just of the battle, but of the woman who stopped it without killing. The woman who wasn't human, but who spoke with more heart than any leader. People called her the Chosen. Some said she was a ghost from the war. Others believed she was a symbol of what came next, but Carell didn't want to be a symbol. She wanted to live. Back aboard the ship, Jack found her sitting with an old photo in her hand, the only image he had left of his wife, Elena. "I keep wondering," Carell said softly, "how much of me is her?" Jack looked at her carefully. "You have her memories, maybe her heart, but you've made your own choices. And no matter what they made you for, you made yourself." Carell's eyes glistened. "Would she have hated me?" Jack shook his head. "No, she would have loved who you've become." But the Federation wasn't done. In a final desperate move, they activated an old war device, a memory scrambler that could erase echo-based minds across a wide area. It was meant to kill her without firing a bullet. Jack and Carell received the warning. Too late. The device activated. Carell fell to her knees, pain rushing through her mind like fire. "No," Jack cried, catching her as she collapsed. "I can feel her," Carell whispered, struggling to stay awake. "She's saying goodbye." Jack held her tightly. "Don't go, please." Tears rolled down Carell's face. "This is the last piece." "Of her? If it leaves? I'll just be me." Jack looked into her eyes. "That's all I've ever wanted." And then it was over. The machine burned itself out. The signal stopped. Carell opened her eyes again. Something inside her had gone quiet. The echoes of Elena were finally gone, but she was still here, still a Carell. "I thought I'd feel empty," she said. "But I feel free." Jack smiled through tears. "Then you finally become who you were meant to be." In the weeks that followed, Carell and Jack traveled across colonies, not to fight, but to teach, to heal, to lead. Other Echo survivors came forward, some broken, some lost, but all looking for purpose. And in Carell, they found it. She was never rented. She was never owned. She had been chosen, not by fate, not by machines, but by her own heart. And Jack, the human who once bought her to save a memory, now stood beside her, not as her owner, but as her partner, her equal. Her husband died. Final scene under a calm sky on a peaceful colony. Carell stood before a small gathering of people. She looked out at the crowd and said in a quiet voice, "I was made in a lab, sold like a thing, hunted like a weapon. But I survived. I changed. I chose love over fear. And now I offer this truth to all of you. We are not what they made us. We are what we choose to become." Jack stepped beside her, took her hand, and smiled. And together they walked forward into a new future